As we all know, cell is a basic unit of any organism, which is composed of smaller physical units, the organelle. Characterization of these organelles is often possible with the help of microscopy, but the functional characterization of these organelles is often beyond the ability of microscopic observations. We are able to increase our chemical knowledge of these functions of these organelles. Numerous fractionation procedures are employed by cell biologists. Each of these organelles has characteristic size, shape and density which makes it different from the other organelles within the same cell. If a cell is broken open in a gentle manner, it is possible to isolate and study each and every organelle of the same. The first step in the isolation of subcellular organelles is to obtain a pure sample, which can be obtained by following systematic fractionation procedures. Now, let us see cell disruption. The initial step of obtaining a subcellular organelle in a purified form is to obtain a ruptured cell wall, plasma membrane or both. This can be done by various methods. This includes mechanical method, structural damage and chemical methods. First, now let us see mechanical method. This includes homogenization, cell rupture by pressure, sonication and grinding. Now, let us see homogenization. In this process, cells are suspended in a solution having appropriate pH and salt composition, similar to those found in cell interior. In this process, cells are broken open with the help of special pressurized tissue homogenizer and forced through narrow cavity between the vessel wall and plunger. During the whole process, the temperature is maintained to 0 degree centigrade in order to preserve the enzymes and the other constituents which are released into the medium during the cell disruption. Second mechanical method is cell rupture by pressure. This method is generally employed for disruption of microbial cells. In this process, the cells are forced through narrow cavity with high pressure. The pressure exerting device is so powerful that this method helps in the obtaining of the molecular dissociation. Now, third mechanical method is sonication. Cells can be broken up with the help of high frequency sound. This method is also known as ultrasonic oscillation. This method is generally obtained for cell suspension preparation from tissue culture cells. The major disadvantage of this method is that considerable amount of heat is generated during this process. The advantage of this method is that high frequency sound breaks the plasma membrane or the cell wall, leaving the organelles intact. The last mechanical method is grinding. Some types of cells such as plant cells, bacterials or yeast cells which contains an extra layer other than their cell wall or plasma membrane must be grinded first. Grinding involves use of simple mortar and pestles having sand or glass beads. Great efficiency can be achieved if cells are undergone rapid freezing in liquid nitrogen. The second method of cell disruption is with the help of structural damage. Structural damage is generally achieved by osmotic shock. This method is very useful because of its easiness, simplicity and absence of shearing forces. In this method, the cells are transferred from one solution to the another, such as from isotonic solution to the hypotonic solution. This leads to swelling of cells and ultimately bursting them open. The major disadvantage of this method is there are some of the subcellular organelles such as mitochondria, Golgi apparatus, endoplasmic reticulum, lysosomes which are osmotically sensitive. This method may rupture them also. The another disadvantage is there are some bacteria and tissue cells which are insensitive to osmotic shock, so their lysis is not possible with this method. Now, we will see the chemical method used for cell disruption. In that, first one is detergents. detergents are amphipathic molecules which forms micelles in water. They are generally used to disrupt the cell membrane. Mainly two types of detergents are used. First one is ionic detergents such as sodium dodecyl sulfate. Second one is non-ionic detergents such as Triton X100 and NP40. The strong ionic detergents solubilize most of the membrane proteins, but at the same time they unfold them. In these conditions, it becomes impossible to study function and the morphology of these organelles. In such cases, mild, non-ionic detergents at very low concentration are used, which can solubilize only the plasma membrane of the cell. We will see the use of organic solvents. Beside detergents, organic solvents are capable of solubilizing membranal proteins, but they are not widely used. Many organic solvents such as toluene, acetone, ethyl acetate are used to dissolve the membranal structure. But the problem with this kind of chemical is that they can dissociate the intracellular membranal structure also. That is why this method is not widely acceptable. The third chemical method is the use of enzyme. This method is used to digest the extracellular matrix of animal cells and cell wall of plant, fungi and bacterial cells. The choice of the enzyme depends on the specificity of the cell to be digested. The aim of this method is to obtain a cell suspension from rigid tissue cells or protoplast from the cells containing cell wall. Now, for animal tissue culture, the enzymes used are collagenase, trypsin and elastase, whereas for cell wall containing cells, the enzymes used are cellulase and pectinase. In the second case, we can use the enzyme to digest some of the specific component of the cell wall, such as cellulase for plant cells, glucanase for yeast and lysozyme for bacterial cells. Now, we will see the methods used for cell fractionation. Centrifugation is classical and widely used technique. In this method, the organelles are separated in an applied centrifugation field depending upon their size, shape and density. Essentially, the heavier or the denser particle will sediment faster compared to the lighter ones. In case of particles having same density and molecular weight, the particle having complex structure will get sediment faster due to the absence of frictional resistance. Now, first centrifugation can be classified into two groups. First, preparative centrifugation, second one is analytical centrifugation. Now, let us focus on preparative centrifugation. We will see preparative centrifugation. This is a kind of separation technique by which preparation of cellular, subcellular and molecular fractions in uniform or density gradient medium is possible. In this technique, the subcellular organelles are fractioned depending upon their sedimentation rate, which in turn depends on their size, shape and density in an applied centrifugal force. Let us see differential centrifugation. It is a type of preparative centrifugation in which the substance is separated as a fraction by applying increasing centrifugal field for different time durations. Thus, at different magnitudes of centrifugal field, different fractions having different size and densities are separated. Rate of sedimentation depends on the size, then on the density of the particle. They can also be made to sediment by applying greater centrifugal force by increasing the speed. Now, let us see density gradient centrifugation. This is a type of preparative centrifugation in which the subcellular organelles are fractioned depending upon their sedimentation in a density gradient medium. This technique can be further classified into two groups. First, rate zonal centrifugation, second, isopycnic centrifugation. Let us see rate zonal centrifugation. This technique involves the sedimentation of the subcellular organelles depending upon the molecular size and sedimentation rate. Here, the substance to be separated is carefully layered over a preformed layer of density gradient. The highest density in the gradient should not be greater than the densest particle to be separated. The density gradient is so established that it gives a sharp reduced separation of the fractions in the form of bands. This separation is achieved by centrifugation for definite period of time, where the applied centrifugal field makes the particle to sediment at different rates. This is due to the fact that different particles will exhibit different sedimentation velocity, which mainly depends on their size. Now, let us see isopycnic centrifugation. This technique is also known as equilibrium centrifugation technique. It is based on the buoyant density of the subcellular organelles. The maximum density of the medium exceeds the densest particle in an time independent fashion. The particles are sedimented at their isodensity and no further sedimentation occurs. This is due to the fact that the particles keeps on floating onto the medium having a greater density than its own. Now, we will see the formation of the gradients. There are majorly two types of density gradients. First one is continuous density gradient formation. Second one is discontinuous density gradient formation. The continuous density gradient formation is done by careful layering of the gradient medium of different densities one over the another. This gradient is not very sharp. Now, we will see discontinuous density gradient. This gradient formation, also known as step gradient, is characterized by marked variation by dissolving the gradient in various proportion and layered one over the another. Layering is done with the help of a pipette, and the high density region is at the bottom of the tube, whereas the lowest density region is at the top of the tube. Now we will see choice of gradient. An ideal gradient must possess certain characteristics, such as it should permit the desired type of separation, it should be stable in a solution, it should be inert to biological material, it should be non-toxic, it must be inexpensive and easily available, it has to possess negligible osmotic pressure and cause minimum change in pH, ionic strength and viscosity. It should not absorb light of wavelength used for the spectrophotometric assay. It should not interfere with other assaying procedures as well. Now, we will see sample application. The mixture of the substance is carefully layered on the top of the gradient. This is done with the help of a pipette or a hypodermic syringe. Now, let us talk about fraction collection. The various fractions are collected after the completion of the centrifugation procedure. This can be done in two ways. First is careful sucking, second is puncturing the bottom of the tube. Now, we will see the application of these techniques. Rate zonal centrifugation is used for the separation of DNA, RNA, enzymes, hormones, hybrids, ribosomal subunits and other subcellular fractions. Isopycnic centrifugation is used in the separation of subcellular organelles and isotopic studies involving macromolecules. Now, we will see analytical centrifugation. Analytical centrifugation is extremely powerful and versatile technique for characterizing the solution state behavior of the macromolecules. An analytical centrifugation can be used to perform two types of experiments referred to as sedimentation velocity and sedimentation equilibrium. Sedimentation velocity is a hydrodynamic technique and is sensitive to mass and shape of the macromolecular species. In a sedimentation velocity experiment, a moving boundary is formed on an application of strong centrifugal field. A series of scans are recorded at regular intervals to determine the rate of movement and the broadening of the boundary as a function of time. In contrast, sedimentation equilibrium is a thermodynamic technique that is sensitive to the mass but not the shape of the macromolecular species. These experiments are performed at lower speeds and measures the equilibrium concentration distribution of the macromolecules that eventually forms when sedimentation is balanced by diffusion. The sedimentation velocity and equilibrium provides complementary information. It is often useful to use both the techniques to a given problem. Now, we will see how to assess the sample purity. For sample assessment, various methods are available. In that, first we will see microscopic methods. Microscopic methods are generally used to assess the morphological features of the isolated subcellular organelles. In that, light microscopy is generally used. Light microscopy is generally used to observe the cellular components into their native state. This microscopy allows estimation of unstained native cell organelles without harming them. For others, additional specific staining using that selectively stains the required structures or components of this cell should be applied in order to increase the contrast. Now, let us see electron microscopy. The most precise criteria for purity and homogeneity of the isolated subcellular component and macromolecular architecture of the cell can be provided by electron microscopy. Electron microscopy of the fractions allows determination of contaminations and their morphological integrity. Gradient fractions, for example for mitochondrial and lysosomal fractions, can be easily prepared for electron microscopic examination. Sometimes, the morphology of the organelle is often disturbed due to cell rupture, rupturing of the plasma membrane or the endoplasmic reticulum. There is a formation of microsomes. In such kind of cases, estimation of the marker enzymes becomes necessary. Now, let us see biochemical methods, which includes measurement of the enzyme activity. This method is based on the fact that each of the organelle possesses marker enzyme which makes it different from the other organelles, like cytochrome C oxidase is present in mitochondria, beta galactosidase is present in lysosomes, catalase for peroxisomes, alpha mannose 2 for Golgi apparatus. Today we have seen various cell disruption procedures including mechanical, chemical and structural. As these techniques are having wide clinical, biochemical, molecular and biotechnological applications, this holds a vast importance in the study of cell biology.